After protecting the kingdom as the hero in the Great War, Diaz is rewarded by the king and given his own territory, but when he gets there, he finds that it's completely empty. He has no idea what to do, but he knows a lord's duty is to live in his domain, where he will protect his people and collect taxes for the king. He's glad he has clean water, and realizes that even though he's walked a long way, he still hasn't come across anyone. He realizes he's all alone, and his domain is nothing but grass, but he still decides to give being a lord his best shot. He thinks about going to a nearby village if he finds nothing in 2 days, so that he can earn money by helping people, and he thinks it's the best way to fulfill his parents' dying wish. The next day, a girl named Alma suddenly wakes him up and asks him why he's sleeping there, so he tells her he couldn't find a place to stay. She wonders what he's doing there, so he explains that he was told to live in the area, but he doesn't have a plan and just wants to survive. She finds him sus, so she prepares to grab her weapon, but he stops her and notes that he's serious. He mentions that his goal is to help people, because he wants to honor his parents' dying wish, and the horn on her head glows blue, so she realizes he's telling the truth. He explains that he has no reason to lie to her, and she asks him if he's her enemy or ally, but he doesn't know what to tell her since he just met her. He realizes they're in his territory, which means she's one of his subjects, and he thinks she must be angry since he isn't telling her he's on her side. He assures her he's her ally, and notes that he'll always protect her, which causes her horn to glow blue again. She takes him to her village, where they meet the chief mole, who also asks him if he's her ally. So he explains that he's a friend to everyone in the village, since the king ordered him to serve as their lord. Alma becomes annoyed and threatens to shoot him, but Mole stops her and asks him to tell her everything. He notes that when he was a kid, his mother used to tell him to be helpful to others, while his father told him to protect the weak. They died in an epidemic when he was just 10, so he gathered the other orphans who also lost their parents, and they earned money by keeping the town clean and hunting monsters. He was living a life his parents would be proud of, but a war broke out when he was 15, and he decided to become a soldier to protect everyone he loved. He realized he had a talent for combat and achieved major victories, so the king made him the lord of the territory to reward him for his service. Mole asks him what he'll do if they aren't his subjects, so he mentions that he'll still help them, since he would consider them his neighbors. He doesn't understand why she's asking such a question, but he realizes they aren't his subjects, and she reveals that they're the enemy of the king he serves. She notes that they've been at war with his kingdom for control of the grassland, and they were forced to run away 50 years ago, but he wonders how they're still living there if they were driven away. She reveals they can use different spells by storing energy in their horns, and she shows him her concealment magic, telling him they use it to hide their entire village. He wonders if she isn't worried about telling him about it, since he's on their enemy's side, but she knows they can trust him thanks to their soul appraisal skill. She explains that their horns will turn red if someone is dangerous, white if the person is harmless, and blue if the person will bring them happiness. She starts to laugh, because he's the only person she's ever met who's spent his life honoring the dying wishes of his parents. She notes that even though they aren't his subjects, they can still provide him food and shelter, but he shouldn't tell anyone about their village in exchange, and he accepts the deal. She appoints Alma as his caretaker, but she seems to be against it, so Mole explains that she must take responsibility since she was the one who brought him there. They build him a hut, and he's surprised by how quickly they finished it, so she explains that they build fast, since they were trained to dismantle and move the village if they run into a threat. She mentions they'll give him sheep, which he can breed to earn money, and she'll teach him how to take care of them. He asks her if she can also teach him how to get more subjects, but she has no idea how to do that, and wonders what he would do if he had more of them. She doesn't think he can handle them, because he barely has enough to survive, and she gives him a bag of dust. She explains that he can use it to attract beasts, which he can hunt to earn money, and he thinks it's the perfect job for him, since he doesn't have to use his brain. He heads to an open field, but he doesn't know how much dust to use, so he just spreads all of it, and it attracts a whole horde of beasts, but he easily takes them out. He realizes he can't carry all of them to the village, so he just takes one of them with him. He thinks Alma will scold him again, but she praises him instead, and she's amazed to learn that he killed half of the horde. She notes that she's never met anyone as manly as him, and leaves to call the villagers, so that they can get the rest of the beasts. Mole admits that she's impressed, and explains that Alma is a grown woman, so it's natural for her to be attracted to manliness. He thinks there are other traits women look for in men, but Mole tells him manliness is the most important thing to them, since they know they need someone strong and reliable to survive. She notes that if he marries Alna, she will expect a huge wedding gift, but he assures her he has no plan for that. The next day, as Diaz wakes up, Alna serves him breakfast, and she's glad he finds it delicious. She asks him if he'll hunt beasts again, and notes that if he plans to gather more subjects, he needs an outhouse and a well. She explains that he can pay the craftsmen to build them, which is why he needs to earn more money. But she thinks he should hunt monsters instead of beasts, because the villagers need the items they drop. She knows they're difficult to find, but explains that she can find them with her magic, so she suggests that they hunt together. He doesn't want to take her with him, because he knows monsters are dangerous, but she notes that hunting is more fun when it's done with a partner. As Diaz takes care of his sheep, the villagers bring him meat and blankets, but they tell him it will be a while before they can build new houses, because the craftsmen are busy. He notices they now respect him thanks to his manliness, and as Alna prepares to go hunting, she tells the villagers to take care of everything while she's gone. Alna uses her magic to find a monster, but she's shocked to see it's an earth dragon, and she thinks Diaz can't defeat it, but he tells her to stay hidden and charges in. He attacks the dragon's shell, but it doesn't work, so he tries going for its head. It hides in its shell, but he refuses to give up, and continues to attack it. His axe is about to break, but he repairs it using his men's skill, and he continues to attack it. He starts to lose hope, and takes one last swing before he quits, and he finally manages to crack the shell, so it comes out of hiding and breathes fire. He jumps away and slashes its leg, but it starts to launch fireballs, and one of them hits Alna. He realizes it's about to kill her, so he attacks it with everything he's got, and he manages to completely shatter the turtle's shell. She's amazed that he defeated it in a single blow, and she suddenly hugs him, telling him she wants to marry him. The villagers find them, and as they drag the dragon's remains back to the village, everyone starts to celebrate. Mole tells Diaz they never thought anyone could defeat the dragon, and tells him he can keep the rest of its parts, since even one of its legs is enough to build whatever he wants. She tells him to set something aside as a wedding gift for Alna, but he explains he has no intention to marry her. So she explains that if he rejects her, every other woman in the village will try to marry him, since he just defeated a dragon. He's shocked to learn Alna is only 15, and we learn that in the kingdom, the legal age for marriage is 18, so he thinks they need to live like they're engaged for the next 3 years. Alna tells him all the arrangements have been made, and asks him what he wants to eat for breakfast, but he tells her he's happy with anything she cooks. They throw a huge banquet for everyone, and the women are jealous of Alna for marrying Diaz, but he explains that they're just engaged. The next day, Diaz makes a hut, and he wonders how he'll get more subjects who can use the houses. Alna senses a monster approaching, and he wonders what they should do about the sheep while they go to fight it, so she makes the villagers look after them. They see an ogre, but she mentions there's no point in hunting it, since its materials are so stinky that no one uses them. They rush toward the ogre, but it dodges Diaz's attacks, so Alna shoots its leg to slow it down, which creates an opening for him to land the finishing blow. She tells him to clean himself, because the ogre's blood stinks, and she notes that she won't let him in their house until he gets rid of the smell. After that, Diaz is depressed, because he still doesn't have any subjects, but he becomes excited when Alna mentions their sheep is pregnant. She notes that since the sheep are intelligent, they face mental strain during pregnancy, which is why he needs to support them. They will need to bring them into the house, and she's worried since a lot of men can't stand the mess they cause, but it doesn't bother him at all. The sheep start to talk to her, and he can't understand what they're saying, but she blushes as she mentions she hasn't gone that far with him, so he realizes what they're talking about. Alna senses a group of humans, and he goes to check if they're a threat, but he sees his war buddy named Klaus, who reveals that he's on an escort mission. He knows Diaz became a lord, so he asks him to take them to his manor, but he explains that he only lives in a small house, and brings them to his hut. A girl named Diane reveals that she's a princess, and she wonders if his manor is still under construction. He starts to talk to her, and one of her guards is annoyed that he isn't addressing her formally, but she explains that it's okay. He reveals that he doesn't have any manor or servants, and notes he built the hut on his own, but she becomes confused, because he was supposed to be given a huge sum of money. He mentions he didn't even get a single coin, and was sent there without any food or water, and Klaus is angry because of the way he was treated. He asks her why she came to see him, so she explains that she needs his help because a war is about to start in the capital. She offers to marry him if he joins the fight, but we learn that he doesn't want to go to war again, and he thinks he can't leave his pregnant sheep Francois. So he tells Diane he has decided not to go to war, and notes that he doesn't even have any troops to give her. He asks her to leave, so her guard becomes angry and takes out his sword, but Diaz instantly destroys it. Klaus thinks they should head back, because he knows they can't defeat Diaz even if they gang up on him, and they immediately walk away. But Diaz is worried that Anna will yell at him, since he damaged their hut. She suddenly appears beside him, and notes that Francois was crying since she couldn't be with him, so he goes to comfort her. Anna becomes jealous, so he pats her on the head as well, and she tells him all the women made her horn turn red, so she thinks they're a threat to their family. The next day, Anna senses a human wandering around aimlessly, and Diaz leaves to check it out, but she joins him along with the sheep because she doesn't want Francois to be sad again. The human turns out to be Klaus, and Diaz wonders what happened to his armor, so he explains that he was fired from the army. Diaz wonders if it's because he told Diane to leave, but Klaus explains that he got himself fired on purpose since he didn't want to fight on the front lines. He wants to work for Diaz, who remembers how trustworthy Klaus was in the war, and Anna reveals herself as she notes that she has no problem with it since he made her horn glow blue. After that, Klaus is glad he came there because Diaz helped him build a hut and even gave him armor and weapons made from dragon materials. Anna serves them food, and Klaus finds it delicious, but Diaz becomes nervous when he notes that she will make a good wife. She becomes happy hearing this and tells him to eat as much as he likes, while the other sheep Francis mentions that they contribute to the family with their wool. He tells Klaus to make sure he's useful as well, so he promises to do his best as the leader of Diaz's forces, but Diaz thinks about how he's the only soldier in the domain. Anna senses that 12 humans have entered their land, but she notes that one of them is in critical condition, so they decide to check it out. Diaz tells Klaus to stay in the camp because he'll send Anna and the sheep back if they run into trouble, and Anna activates her concealment spell as they leave. Klaus thinks about how there's a fight going on between the 5 princes and princesses to decide who will succeed to the throne, and he thinks Diaz didn't get his reward because the second prince took everything for himself. Klaus knows the war will affect everyone in the kingdom, so he must be ready to protect the village if the conflict reaches the domain. Diaz returns with the humans, and Anna gives medicine to treat their leader Maya, since she's in terrible condition. Diaz tells Klaus they were driven out because of a rebellion in the neighboring territory, which forced their village to exile all the elderly people so that they would have fewer mouths to feed. But he's glad that he has 12 new subjects, and he's excited to build huts for them. Klaus notes that they won't be of much use to him, but he doesn't care, and just hopes they will tell him the secret to living a long life, since all of them are old. Anna agrees with Diaz, and the sheep think they should do whatever he says, because he's the strongest among them. In a flashback, we see a general as he tells his soldiers to retreat, but Klaus refuses to abandon the civilians in the shelter. Diaz saves a kid and puts him in the shelter, but he starts to cry and asks Diaz to stay with him, so Diaz assures him he will protect them. A group of soldiers rushes toward them, but instead of running away, Diaz and Klaus fight them head-on and work together to wipe them out. In the present, Klaus thinks he's a fool because he thought it would be honorable to die for Diaz, but he realized he needs to stay alive and help him. Diaz struggles to get the materials out, so Klaus gives him a hand and tells him to be careful since he might damage the hut. After that, the elders thank Diaz for building a meeting place, and Anna mentions they plan to make clothes when they have enough wool. He plans to declare the place a village, but he doesn't know what to call it, so Klaus proposes they call it the Dragon-Slaying Village, but Anna doesn't like it. She thinks they should call it the Aluk Village, because it means first village in the ancient language, and everyone decides to go with it. Anna mentions they need even more subjects, and Maya suddenly appears behind Diaz. She tells him he should trade the Earth Dragon's materials to buy slaves, but he refuses the idea because he saw how terrible slaves were treated on the battlefield. He notes that he won't allow slavery in his territory, and she's happy with his answer, revealing that she was just testing him to see how he really felt. She notes that in the land she came from, the Lord and his son loved to hunt slaves, so Diaz assures her it won't happen in their village. A merchant named Ped arrives at the village, and Diaz and Klaus are shocked to see he's a frogman, but Diaz notices the horn on Anna's head is glowing white, which means he isn't hostile. Diaz shows him a dragon material, but he doesn't think Diaz defeated a dragon on his own, so he breaks it in half to prove his strength. Ped can't believe how strong he is, and he gathers the items he'll trade for the material, but he offers 2 elf kids as well. Diaz becomes angry, since he thinks Ped is trading them as slaves, but Alna calms him down, and Maya tells Ped they don't buy slaves. He tells them they got it all wrong, and explains that the elves aren't slaves, but he decided to take them with him as merchandise, since he knew they would die if he left them alone. He explains that everyone in their village wanted to execute them, since they thought the twins would bring calamity, so their parents took them and ran away. Their parents were incredibly sick when he saw them, and they knew their days were numbered, so they told him to take care of the twins. He tried to refuse, because he doesn't do charity work, but he accepted their request when they offered him money. Ped assures everyone he doesn't have bad intentions, and Alna mentions the kids are making her horn glow blue, so Diaz decides to take them in, and pays Ped the money he spent to take care of them. He picks up the kids and asks them what their names are, but they don't say anything, so he thinks about giving them new names. But they don't want him to replace the ones their parents gave them, so they introduce themselves as Senna and Aya. He asks them to go with Alna to take a bath, and Klaus is impressed by how good he is with kids, so he explains that he was like a father figure to the other orphans before the war. After the twins take a bath, Diaz tells them they're cute, and Maya thinks they will be good for the village, even though they aren't humans. Alna puts necklaces around their necks, and tells them the meaning of their names in the ancient language, but they start to cry as they remember their parents. Diaz and Alna calm them down, and note that they've been brave ever since they left their parents, but they don't need to hide their feelings anymore. The sheep also comfort the twins, and Diaz asks Alna about the ancient language, so she reveals that it was used in legends, but no one uses it anymore. After 10 days, Senna and Aya get used to their new surroundings, and we see them fighting because Senna ate Aya's potato. So Diaz offers his potato to her, but she rejects it since he already ate half of it. Alna senses a human approaching, so Diaz decides to check it out, and Senna and Aya tell him they'll wait for him to return. Diaz meets the man, who introduces himself as Lots, and he reveals that he serves Eldon, the new lord of the Castek territory, where Maya and the others came from. Lots notes that Eldon is on his way to meet him, and asks Diaz to take him to his manor, but he notes that he'll meet him there instead. He thinks the rebellion of the former lord's second son must have been successful, since the territory has a new lord, but Diaz won't let him near the village, because Maya mentioned that he had a lot of slaves. Diaz sees him approaching, and he doesn't trust him, but Alna notes that Eldon is making her horn glow blue. He rushes toward Diaz, and apologizes for making him wait, revealing that he idolizes him, since he considers him the kingdom's savior. He promises not to do anything to upset him, because he wants them to be friends, but he suddenly asks him about Alna. He knows she's using a concealment spell, but explains that she can't hide from him, since he can smell her nearby. She comes out of hiding, but he's surprised to see the horn on her head, and asks Diaz about their relationship. He reveals that she's his fiancée, but she wants him to call her his wife, and she reveals that she has a horn since she's a demi-human. Eldon suddenly starts to cry tears of joy, and he asks them if they have kids, so she reveals that they're raising demi-human orphans. He cries even louder, but his face suddenly transforms, and everyone realizes he's also a demi-human. He becomes exhausted, so his servants return him to the carriage, and Diaz wonders what's wrong with him. Lots reveals that he's a half demi-human, who can switch between 2 forms, but he becomes exhausted whenever he does it, which is why he needs his wives to look after him. He explains that he got so excited that he couldn't maintain his human form, but Diaz tells him it's okay, and asks about the rebellion. Lots reveals that it all started when Eldon was born, and explains that the previous Lord Anchor hated his eldest son's personality, so he stopped supporting him. He became fond of his second son Eldon, who was born to a demi-human slave, but he declared him his true son, and gave him a position of power. Eldon learned he was a half demi-human when he turned 5, so he secretly got to know his mother, and worked behind the scenes to free the demi-human slaves. He reveals that he wants to make a world where everyone can live in happiness, and Lots notes that his wives used to be slaves, but he freed all of them, which is why they love him with all their hearts. Anchor was angry when he learned about Eldon's actions, and decided to kill all demi-humans, but Eldon raised an army to protect them, and defeated his father after a brutal conflict. Diaz wonders why Eldon idolizes him, so Lotz explains it's because he's known throughout the kingdom as an almighty hero who stood against evil to fulfill his parents' dying wish. Diaz can't believe it, since he never thought he was that popular, and Eldon thinks he lives up to his reputation, so he wants to be his friend. Diaz supports Eldon's dream, and explains that he also wants humans and demi-humans to live in harmony, so he agrees to be Eldon's friend. As they have tea together, Eldon tells Diaz he'll be in trouble if he doesn't store food for winter, and he thanks Eldon for his advice. After Eldon leaves, Diaz returns to the twins, and he tells them he's home, but they both yell at him since he took longer than expected. At night, the twins go to sleep, but Alna suddenly senses intruders approaching, and she thinks they're up to no good, so Diaz prepares to deal with them. She decides to go with him, and explains that her magic can help him, since she knows he can't see anything in the dark. We see a man with a group of mercenaries, and we learn that he paid them to get rid of Diaz while he's sleeping, since he knows they can't beat him in a fair fight. They think it will be an easy job, but they suddenly get ambushed, and their leader sees arrows coming from a red light, so he orders his men to shoot it. It dodges their arrows and disappears, and it continues to shoot them, but the leader tells his men to keep firing. Alna screams as an arrow almost hits her, so the leader realizes where she is, and orders his men to charge in. Diaz suddenly sends them flying, so their leader starts to panic, and tells Diaz to show himself. He destroys the leader's sword and kicks him away, so the man who hired the mercenaries runs for his life, but his old wounds suddenly starts to hurt. We learn that Diaz destroyed his manhood, after he caught him committing a serious war crime, so it's why the man wanted to get revenge on him. We return to Diaz, as he scolds the mercenaries for trying to kill him, and they're all ready to be punished, but he just lets them go. Alna thinks he shouldn't have let them off easy, but he explains that it's okay, since they didn't hurt anyone. She knows one of them got away, but she's glad they surrendered their weapons, since steel is precious in the domain. She reveals that bandit hunting is profitable, and she always wanted to try it, so she was excited when his carriage arrived, but she realized he wasn't a bandit since he was all alone. She wanted to take his equipment while he was sleeping, but decided not to do it, since he made her horn glow blue. But she still doesn't understand why she talked to him, because she could have just left him in the open. She suddenly kisses him on the cheek, but she becomes flustered and runs away, and he chases after her, since he knows he can't see anything without her magic. But that's where this video ends. Let me know if you want to see more of this series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.